Predict, pick, and prevail in your fantasy football leagues with Nick Giacobbe and Nick Cap. From breakouts to busts, superstars to sleepers, these are the guys that will help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome everybody to Season 2, Episode 24 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we hope prevail throughout the 2022 fantasy football season. I'm your host, Nick Giacobbe. Joining me is Nick Cap. Nick, it's Thursday. Our Thursday shows are probably our shortest, and we're going to talk about Thursday Night Football tonight. And it's going to be like talking about having like a bad meal at your favorite restaurant.
Oh, we got the battle of the two biggest dogs in the league.
Oh,
and
man.
By that, I mean underdogs every single week, because both those teams are horrendous.
The Steelers are on a horrendous team with the quarterback play.
The quarterbacks are horrendous.
Not great. But we're still going to preview it. We'll talk about some fantasy players, some studs, some duds. We'll give you a full preview. We have a lot of injury updates to keep you updated on as we have throughout the week. If this is your first time listening to us, thank you so much. We do the show every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. You can find us on all audio streaming platforms, but not limited to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It really does help us out to take those, 30 seconds. If you'd rather watch the show, go to our YouTube channel, PrimeTimeFFPod. You can find all of our episodes there. They release at the same time as the audio versions. If you watch an episode and enjoy it, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, turn on alerts, all that good stuff. We really appreciate all of that. If you want to follow us and interact with us on social media, and please do, PrimeTimeFFPod on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. That's also the best way to get in touch with us when it comes to asking start sit questions and other stuff on Sundays. And our Facebook and YouTube is PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Starting off with injury updates and some news. Let's start off with Dalton Schultz. Jerry Jones, who's basically the coach and general manager and owner of the Cowboys, thinks that he only misses 1 week. So Jerry Jones apparently has gotten his doctorate degree. I don't know.
Doctorate, yeah.
He's got his doctorate degree in the last week, apparently, because he thinks that Dalton Schultz is going to only miss 1 week. I think so, too. I'm optimistic. But if you have Dalton Schultz like yours truly on 3 leagues, go and pick up somebody off the waiver wire. Hopefully you listened to our last show and we're able to get somebody. I picked up Gerald Everett in 2 leagues. And in the 3rd league, I think I'm starting Logan Thomas. I took Nick's advice from the last 2 weeks. So I would assume he doesn't play this week. And even if he does, he's playing on Monday night. So there's no tight end on the Giants or Cowboys that I would sub in. So I would just put him on your bench for this week.
Yeah, I agree. This injury is going to linger. It's going to hurt him this week. It'll hurt him for a couple weeks. You won't see a full 100% Dalton Schultz for a while, especially first week since I'm putting him on my bench. There's enough depth at tight end. There are enough guys that were on the waiver wires for the first 2 weeks that I think you could start on for a 1 week plug and play. So I have no problem benching him knowing he has Monday Night Football.
Mike Evans' suspension of 1 game has been upheld officially. He will miss week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. Pretty big game, significant for the playoffs for sure. And I'm not really planning on starting any Bucs receivers. Maybe Julio Jones, but this is bad for Tom Brady. We're gonna do our boom and bust teams for tomorrow on Friday's show for the weekend. Tom Brady was on my bust team last week. He only scored like 13 fantasy points. He's not on my bust team this week, so I do like to switch it around, but he's a bust for me. I don't think Tom Brady's like startable right now. Like his number 1 receiver is Julio Jones, who's a bit washed and injury prone. Then there's like Rashad Perriman, Russell Gage. This has to be like a Leonard Fournette show. David Montgomery had 100 yards on the ground last week and a terrible game script, but this has to be the playoff Lenny, Super Bowl Lenny show. This has to be when he gets in the end zone. They have to lean on him here. And the offensive line is really bad too. I believe the starting right tackle is already on IR for like 3 or 4 weeks. Center's out. Like the line is beat up. And honestly, this is in football terms, but Brady doesn't really look like himself either. He looks like a guy who's stressed out and has, I don't want to get into personal issues, but it sounds like he's separated with Giselle or something. And if he doesn't retire by the end of the season, it's not going to go well. And that's my point being, like, the Bucs right now aren't safe to play, in my opinion, besides Leonard Fournette.
Did you see Leonard Fournette's tweet today?
I did. He said something about he's going to guarantee his fantasy owners more touchdowns. And you know what? I like that. He likes his fantasy owners.
He cares about us.
He cares about us. And on top of that, he also knows that that he's letting us down, which is fun. So what are your, the slight positive I have for this is that Evans is a guy who does get injured a bit. Reminds me a bit of like Aaron Judge or Stanton, where they're just big dude that just can easily pull a hamstring or something. He had a calf injury last week, so he now has like 10 days to rest and should be good to go for the next game.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to take away. Evans is gone. Brady was struggling already, so you probably already had to pivot off of Brady. Yeah, I mean, you should be adjusting the same way you've been adjusting while Godwin was out. If you were trusting Fournette, you're trusting Fournette. If you were trusting Julio, you trust Julio. You were trusting Gage, you trust Gage. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, honestly.
The Bucs will light it up in October and November, though.
Yep.
James Conner's ankle injury. Kingsbury said he's day to day. He did not practice today. He was seen doing individual drills, but he wasn't given a limited tag in practice. He was given a do not practice. Something to monitor. We'll talk about it in tomorrow's show on Friday, and we'll hopefully have a better update for you. DeAndre says ankle injury. He did take Wednesday off in practice. Dan Campbell said he feels much better, I guess, compared to last week. So I think this is just a Wednesday off. If you're a star running back and you have an injury, there's no reason to practice on Wednesday.
A lot of teams are doing this now.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about that one at all. I'll monitor it, but he should be good to go bearing a setback. George Kittle, groin injury. He was limited on Wednesday. He looks like he's going to suit up against the Denver Broncos this week. I'm going to play him. Like, he's on my dynasty team. I'll play him, but I don't love it. I want to see how he looks out there, but he has his, quarterback Jimmy G, who he's played most of his career with. So, I can have confidence in his quarterback at least. Alvin Kamara's rib injury. He did practice Wednesday. Looks like he'll be good to go to suit up this week. Needed a week off for you Mark Ingram owners. I'd still stash him on the bench if you can. Keenan Allen's hamstring injury. He did individual drills on Wednesday. I don't know his practice designation. I don't know if he was a do not practice or limited, but it does seem like he'll play on Sunday. I'm still a lot higher on Mike Williams. Hunter Renfrow got a concussion on the last play of the game where he fumbled and Arizona took it back for 6 and won that game. He didn't practice on Wednesday. That's a bad sign. I don't think he'll clear concussion protocol. I'm not a doctor. I don't know much about concussions, but if he didn't practice today, I just feel like that's not.
T. Higgins was back to practice on Wednesday. So
yeah, this isn't a good sign to me. That's not a bad sign. I mean, it's not a good sign. Justin Herbert's ribs, I think it's just cartilage, nothing's fractured. He's considered day-to-day, looks a lot more comfortable, and I believe he got a limited practice in today. And I think they said he's going to suit up on Sunday, so
yeah,
that's good. Lamar Jackson is dealing with soreness, but he's going to play, and he was wearing like a sleeve on his arm, and John Harbaugh called it wear and tear of the season. We're in week 3. Like, we both had the same thought here, but like the wear and tear of the season, if you're already getting wear and tear going into week 3, I don't know if you're worth that $290 million contract that you kind of want. I'm not worried about him yet, though. Until he stops proving. He had 48 fantasy points last week. He's the quarterback one of the year. I'm not worried yet.
I'm pretty sure he's the QB one in fantasy.
He is. So I'm not worried yet, but I'm just saying, like, that quote from Harbaugh's like, well, it's week 3. That's not wear and tear.
Yeah.
Gabriel Davis ankle injury, a pop-up on the injury report over the weekend. He was limited on Wednesday, should be good to go. And even if he's not, Stephon Diggs is still going to have 500 yards and 20 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy shoulder injury, did not practice Wednesday. It's not a wonderful sign. Michael Pittman's quad injury is limited Wednesday. That is a good sign. Should suit up against the Chiefs this week. J.K. Dobbins, full participant. He was labeled week to week by Harbaugh. Until he suits up, I'm just like, I don't know what to expect. I just don't. So, I don't know. We'll see about that. If he does suit up, I feel like you have to play him because you drafted him early, but still, like, I don't like it.
I'm not playing him yet.
Right.
The overall run game of the what's it called? The Ravens does not look good outside of Lamar's massive run. Outside of that, they're averaging like 2 yards per carry, maybe 2.5. So the whole run game does not look good for the Ravens.
All right. We're going to go to a Thursday Night Football preview. We're going to talk about each position. Over-unders will give you an MVP, a bust, and a sleeper. I really considered cutting half these guys from the list. But in terms of the show and putting out content, we will talk about these guys. So if you're in a super-duper, super-duper, pooper-scooper 16-man league, you might have to play one of these quarterbacks.
If you're in the Walter Picks League. Do you know the Walter Picks League?
Is that the one where it's 32 teams?
32 teams.
Yeah, if you're in that one, then this show is for you. Or this part of the segment, I should say. Oh man, Aaron Judge is coming up. I wish I had it on my TV. Judge is going for 61 tonight. Go Yankees. Mitch Trubisky, 14.4 fantasy points. Is that over or under on Mitch?
I'm gonna go under because my prediction is you're gonna see a lot of what we saw week 3 in 2018. Do you know what happened week 3 of 2018, Nick?
I don't know. Was that the Myles Garrett game when he swung on
No, that
somebody?
was when it was Jets versus Browns. Jets were up at halftime, and Baker Mayfield came in and took over the starting job and led the comeback victory. So
Oh man, of
I
course you remember that
I
one with the dog
I do
pound.
remember that, and now I think and the Jets got their payback last week on the greatest comeback since the Super Bowl with the Falcons.
Oh dear.
It was. There's no debating there. But I think
There's no debating there.
I
There's no
think Kenny
debating.
Pickett,
I could probably name like 5 off the top of my head in the last 2 years.
I think Kenny Pickett's going to come in halfway through this game. I think they showcase him in prime time. I think he gets a come from behind win. I think he's going to look good with all those weapons. So I'm going to go under because I do think there's a very strong chance that Trubisky gets subbed out today.
I'm going under. He's been under his last 2 games against Cincy and New England. And those aren't bad defenses, but I'm gonna hit the under on this one. What about Jacoby Brissett? 13.4 points.
I'll go over. Do I want to? No, but that's a very low number for a guy that just put up a lot of yards.
His last 2 games are 10 and 13. I'm just gonna go under. The Steelers have a pretty solid defense. They could be in his face the entire game. All right, moving on to the players that actually kind of matter. I got 2 receivers for the Steelers and 1 for the Browns, 2 running backs for the Browns, 1 for the Steelers. So let's start with the receivers. Deontay Johnson, 13.7.
He's going over. He's getting so much workload in that passing game. He's going to continue to get that workload. He should comfortably go over that.
I've said it before, but Deontay Johnson is quarterback proof. Like his targets in the last 2 weeks are 12 and 10. I honestly don't know where he ranks in targets on the season, but like I just feel like he's going to have like a ridiculous amount of targets this year. And targets equals a chance for receptions, chance for touchdowns, chance for yards. He hasn't had his first touchdown yet, so that would be nice to get him in the end zone this weekend. The Jets receivers looked really good against the Browns last week, so I think you could get 80 yards and a touchdown. This is an over game for Deontay Johnson. What about Chase Claypool, 11.4? His average on the year is 8. That's kind of gross. He hasn't hit 11 on the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under on this one. He's gonna have to find the end zone with Trubisky there.
I'll go with the under too. The only player that I want to play on this team from Pittsburgh on the receiving side is Deontay Johnson. What about Amari Cooper? After last week's game, 14.9 is his projection.
I hate this one. I hate this line because he just went off for like 30 points last week. Like, how can you not play him? But it's also
hold on.
like
I'm sorry. I'm flipping it, Nick. The updated projection I'm seeing is 11.4. So I'm gonna alter that a bit. Actually, I read it wrong. I'm sorry. Chubbs is 14.7. Cooper's is 11.4. I'm sorry. My eyes deceived me.
So it's such a tough line because he just went off last week. But Amari Cooper has been like the model for inconsistency in fantasy. So I'm gonna say over, but I mean, if he put up 3 points this game, I wouldn't be surprised. If he put up 25 points this game, I wouldn't be surprised. He's like one of the most boom bust players in all of fantasy.
I think that's a good way of putting it, but his targets in week 1 were 6. His targets last week were 10. If you're getting over 6 targets a game, like you should produce. So I'm going to go with the over. On to the running backs. Najee Harris, 15.8.
I'm going to take the over on this one. I think Najee's getting a little overlooked. He's getting some side eyes from the guys that draft him at the end of the first, early second. Like, no, Najee's still getting a lot of workload. He's going to continue to get a lot of workload. He's a true 3-down back over there. I know the offensive line doesn't look great, but they're going to use him as many ways as they can. They're going to get him more involved in the passing game. I think they're going to realize that's the way that they won games last year. That's how they made the playoffs last year. So that's what they're going to have to do this year, get him involved in that passing game. I think he's going to go over.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think a lot of these star running backs, this is an overall statement and argument, but I think overall all these running backs need to get more involved in our offenses. Like, look at the top 10 picks in most leagues and look at the running backs drafted. Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris,
Austin Eckler.
Let's just go with those 6. How many of those 6 have had over 20 points in any of these games yet? I think maybe 2. I think Taylor week 1 and Eckler week 2. None of them have played well. Like that's the reality of it. The receivers have played excellent, and the top running backs have not. They're not getting in the end zone, and they're not getting enough pass work. I think Najee has a chance to have a lot of pass. He had a lot of receptions last year. So if he could get in the end zone, I think he's going to have a really good game. I'll go with the over because I think they need to run through him and not through Mitch. Like, stop. Kareem Hunt, 14.7.
I think you mean Nick Chubb, 14.7.
I do. I'm sorry.
Nick is mixing these things up today, but that's all good.
I have a lot of stuff on my screen. I really do.
I'm gonna go with the over, the under here. He saw all his points getting 3 times, finding the end zone 3 times. Besides that, his yards per carry were not great last week against the Jets. The Steelers' front 7 is very, very good, even without TJ Watt over there. He's going to need to find the end zone in this game to hit that number, which I think is possible, but I think Brissett's going to have to result to passing. And in the passing game, out comes Kareem Hunt. To spoil my next pick, 10.9 for Kareem Hunt. I think he goes over that. I think he finds the end zone.
I need to disagree. His yards per carry, I believe, unless the number's wrong, his average yards per carry last week were 5.1 per carry. That's a pretty solid number. I know he had the 3 touchdowns. Even if he wiped them away, he still had, let's see, 6 times 3 is 18. He still had like, I think 14. He had exactly 14 fantasy points without the 3 touchdowns last week. He is a bit touchdown dependent because he didn't catch a lot of balls. Week 1, he had 15 points. Strictly because he had 140 yards, no touchdowns. He is a little touchdown dependent because he didn't catch a lot of balls, and that's my issue with a lot of these running backs at the moment. But I say he goes over. They have to run the offense through him, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to get a lot of carries. You already said over on Kareem Hunt. I'll also say over. He fell just shy of 10 last week, didn't get in the end zone, but again, I think the offense has to run through both of these guys, and I think they both have an opportunity to have a big game every week for the Browns because they have to run the ball. On to the tight ends. Pat Freiermuth, 11.6. This, I like him, but this kind of seems like a high number for a tight end. 11, just, it seems high. That's a number for like your top 5 tight ends. But he has gone over it the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a tough line because Freiermuth's gotten so much workload and he's delivering like one of those top tight ends. But it's just, is it sustainable? Is he that level of talent? 17 targets through 2 weeks. 97 yards, found the end zone once. He's averaging a little over 12.3 points per game. I'm going to take the over, not comfortably. I think it's a great line for him. If he finds the end zone, he's going to smash that number, though.
I'm going to go the under because I don't think he finds the end zone, but I think he needs to find the end zone to hit that number. Lastly, David Njoku, 7.6.
I mean, you shouldn't be starting him unless you're in. I don't even think he's one of the top 16 tight ends.
He's rostered in 33.8% of leagues, and his position rank is 34. I would say under.
I'd take the under.
If he doesn't hit the end zone, it's an under. All right, who is your MVP of this game?
MVP, the guy that's going to go off and give you, going to make you sleep very well into Friday night, very well into Sunday. I'm going to have to go with Deontay Johnson. I mean, the guy's an absolute target machine. He's going to continue to get targets no matter the game script. He's going to have massive upside, massive boom potential every single week. They're going to look towards him in the red zone. They're going to look towards him on third down, those big plays. And he's got great hands. He's worth the talent. He's worth that type of workload. And as Nick said earlier, he's proven to be QB proof. So I think Deontay Johnson would be your MVP this week.
I'm going to go with Najee Harris. The Jets running backs both, I think, posted, I could be wrong, didn't they both have over 10 points last week or something like that? I think they both had pretty solid games, Carter. And so I think Najee Harris has a real opportunity here to have his first breakout game of the season, and they have to run the offense through him. I hope some of these coaches realize that their star running backs have to get more of the volume and they have to get them in more of a rhythm. Really good quote by Kevin O'Connell that I saw. He said he needs to get Dalvin Cook in rhythm, and that's on him. And I agree with that. I think a lot of these running backs, you can't just, if the offense isn't in rhythm and the running back's not in rhythm, like you see it when a running back gets in rhythm, they churn, and they can't be stopped. You see it with Nick Chubb a lot. When he starts picking up those first downs and bulldozing people, like, how do you stop him? It's the same thing with Derrick Henry. I know every running back's not a bulldozer, but you got to get them in a rhythm. And I think if they can get Najee in a rhythm, whether it's passing or rushing, I think he's going to be one of the more unstoppable backs and offensive weapons in the league. What about a sleeper? I don't really have a sleeper, if I'm being honest with you.
I'll give you my sleeper, and it's not saying go play him, but someone to keep your eye out on this week. Mitch Trubisky had one important thing to say about his receiver room, and that is this is the week to get George Pickens more involved. So if you drafted him in the 8th, 9th round, and you were one of the guys that reached on him, like I was in 2 or 3 of my leagues, this is the week you got to keep your eye out on. Mitch Trubisky said he wants to get him more involved. He's been out on the field a lot. So if he's actually going to get the usage now, it's definitely worth monitoring that situation. He might have been dropped in a lot of your leagues because he didn't see much production week 1 and 2. So we might be talking about him as one of the top waiver wire ads next week on Tuesday.
And how about a bust?
It's going to be Nick Chubb. I mean, everybody had him as a bust on the year. I feel like he was taken middle of the 2nd round because of his lack of use in the passing game. Has only had 4 catches so far on the year. He's getting a lot of work on the ground, which of course makes up for it, which we knew he was going to, but it lowers his ceiling so much, not getting that passing work, that 3rd down work that Kareem Hunt is going to get. So if he doesn't find the end zone, it's going to be tough for him to put up a very good week.
I agree with you in a sense. However, Damian Harris and Joe Mixon both had really good games against the Steelers defense. So I agree with you in a sense that if he wants to have a really good game, he could bust, but I think he'll be fine. For me as a bust, I would say Amari Cooper. I just think you spoke about it, like boomer bust potential there. He could have 3 points or 25. I think I'm going to start him in my dynasty league tomorrow night over, I guess tonight if you're listening. I think I'm going to start him over Darnell Mooney because I really just don't like the fact that the Bears only pass the ball 9 times a game. But I don't trust Amari Cooper. I can't do it. But I trust him more than Darnell Mooney. But I think he has a lot of bust potential there. So that is our Thursday Night Football preview. I know it wasn't our most exciting preview, but come on, it's football. It's still better than the alternative, which is just like the months of July, or I guess, I don't know, late June to like August, where it's just like baseball. I love the Yankees, but I love my football.
We like
October. Yeah. October baseball is fun, especially if you're a Yankee fan sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to this show. To all you that listen, the next time you hear from us is tomorrow. Huge show every single Friday, including tomorrow, our boom and bust teams for week 3, our rapid fire start sit for flex spots, and of course, injury updates and the news to start the show. You can find that episode and every episode on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. If you're on iTunes, please give us that 5-star rating and a review. If you'd rather watch the show, go to that YouTube channel, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment. We'd appreciate all of that. Keep connecting with us and following us on social media, PrimeTimeFFPod, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow to get you ready for week 3.